Perfect. Well, I think I'm going to get going here. We have 33 people on the call, and that's a great number. So, little introduction. This is a co-presentation with Calvert Home Mortgage Investment Corporation and DCI Properties, aka Bow River Properties in Alberta. This is a presentation that I'm really excited about. Calvert Home Mortgage, we do a lot of work with real estate investors and flippers, also people who buy, renovate, rent, refinance, or BRRR, as the acronym on the slide goes. And one of the biggest challenges that real estate investors have is finding good opportunities and getting them under contract. And that's where it's really important to have a power team put together to help you find the right properties and find the right opportunities. And Bow River is a wholesaler that can work with you to help you find these properties. So they have a great buyers list of, or they have a large buyers list in circulation where they're marketing properties that they have available for sale / assignment. So working with wholesalers like Ryan and Cody on the call here today provide immense value to our audience because they help people solve one of the trickiest problems that investors face, and that's finding the right properties. So this is going to be a great presentation today. Go to the next slide. Yeah, so just like I said, I'm going to pass it over to these guys. One of the things I want you guys to know about DCI, so I first met Ryan probably about 2 years ago. I love the way that they do their business and that they look to create value to the seller of the property. So they're looking to make sure that they're working at a fair price, but more importantly, fair terms. So are they meeting value? Are they solving a problem for the seller of the property? And then when they assign their contracts into to their buyers list, they do so in a way where all stakeholders win. So sometimes what you see with certain assignment deals is that the assignment fee is so large that it negates the benefit for the end buyer. So if it's a flip or a BRRR, the loan to values don't work, the profit margin is killed because you have such a big assignment fee. And I can say firsthand, working with DCI and Bow River, Cody and Ryan on the call here today, that they're not just thinking about their acquisition of the property and their dispense of the property, but they're also thinking about how their buyer is going to benefit in the deal too. So it's really important to work with people who are looking to create wins on every side of the desk for all stakeholders in the deal. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it along to Ryan DeLaurentis, who is the president of Bow River Properties and DCI. Take it away, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Much appreciated on the intro. And yeah, I'm excited as well. Thanks everyone for joining and taking time out of your day to be with us. I think the first thing I just wanted to mention is that I have a mutual appreciation for Calvert. There aren't a lot of lenders out there that understand how to underwrite these type of deals and look at it from the perspective of the investor. So I've used Calvert. A lot of my staff has used Calvert. I know Cody has. And a lot of our investors, both in Ontario and Alberta, also use them. So I'll let them get into their spiel later. But I just wanted to add that. I think that we really do try and look at deals from the lens as an investor. I'm an investor myself. I have a bunch of rentals. I've done 30, 40 flips myself. So when we send out deals to our buyers, and Cody will get into this in a little bit more detail, he's our disposition specialist and works with all of our buyers when it comes to selling the property. We really do try and look at it from the lens of an investor. So just wanted to caveat on that. And then the other thing I'd wanted to mention, the reason that you see two names here. So DCI Properties is our operating company, and that's how we operate in Ontario. It is actually how we've chosen to operate in Edmonton. We had Bow River Properties in place in Calgary to have a little bit more of a local vibe, but we're going to be rebranding shortly as our seller-facing company. Our buyer-facing company will still be DCI Properties. So if you see deals come through in Calgary as Bow River, or you see them come through in Edmonton as DCI, just wanted to explain it is all still under the same umbrella. It's just how we appear to sellers on both sides. You can go to the next slide there. So a little bit about us. My name's Ryan. Again, that's Cody. My wife and I founded the company in 2018. We were real estate investors ourselves for a few years prior. We had some multifamily properties. We were doing some flips, had some rentals. And most of what we had bought was private, off market. We used to hustle and door knock ourselves to find some of our deals. And yeah, we just thought that there was more to this and not a lot of people doing it in Southwest Ontario. So we started building that out a few years ago. We're now up to a team of about 20 people. Our primary office is located in London, Ontario. And we've recently, so in 2020, we expanded to Calgary. And for some of you that invest both in Calgary and Edmonton, you might have seen us sending out some deals in Calgary. And more recently, in the last 3 months, we've expanded to Edmonton. And then on the Ontario side, we're currently in Southwest Ontario and some areas in and around the GTA. So to date, we've purchased over 300 properties that we've sold as assignment deals. What types of properties do we buy? I would say, out of this list, it's probably 90% single family houses, maybe another 5% condos, and then probably 5% for the other small multifamily land and rental properties. Actually, rental properties might be a little bit higher on ones we buy from landlords, but I consider that to mostly fall within that single family home category as well. So we don't come across, at least currently, much in the way of large commercial. We are looking to develop that umbrella or that sort of lead channel in the next year or so. But currently you'll see a lot of single family houses and condos come from us. What I also want to mention, which might be different than what you might have seen from other wholesalers, none of our properties are MLS deals. So they're not touching the MLS. We're buying them directly from the seller, negotiating the purchase contract with the seller. So they don't reach the MLS. So when you see it, you'll likely be some of the first people seeing it, and it won't reach the MLS. And then the other caveat on how we buy is we're typically buying properties in as-is condition. Cody will get into this in a little bit more detail later. But our service offering to the seller is providing them with ease, flexibility, and convenience. So when you buy an assignment contract from us, you're buying our original purchase contract with the seller. Sometimes, sellers in our scenario will want to push back closing dates. They may leave some of their belongings in the property. We try and do a good job of outlining that when Cody gets to the way we actually send out these properties that you'll see in your inbox. We try and disclose most of that information, but I just wanted to add a little caveat here that it is different than what you might be used to buying on the MLS with two agents involved. The reason that you're buying it at a better price is because we're offering some of these better terms to the seller. So, it's not on every deal, but it does come up where, there's a lot of stuff left behind. So your junk removal, you might need to budget for more junk removal cost. Or, the purchase date might have been, or the closing date, I should say, might have been set for February 3rd. And the seller calls us 2 weeks before and says, you know what, I need an extra week. We try as best we can to not let that happen, but when it does, just keep in mind that the reason we're getting it at a good deal is because we're offering those kind of terms to the seller and trying to make it more easy and convenient for them. I think we go to the next slide. Perfect. Cody, you want to take it away? Oh, I can't hear you. No. Okay, I'll fill in, Cody. You see if you can come back. So these are some of the houses that we've bought. It's a mixture of vinyl, brick, condo townhouses. You can go to the next slide. Some of the condition that they're in. So sometimes you come across houses that don't need hardly any renovation at all. And sometimes you come across ones that are, almost complete guts. And then sometimes we come across them where it's in between, where the seller's actually done some of the work themselves, but it might as well be a total gut because the work they did was crappy. And, you know, if you wanted to flip it or try and get sort of a max ARV, you might need to redo some of the work that's been done. But yeah, that gives you an idea. And again, Cody will get into how we send that out and how we help you understand what the property is when you're looking at it, when we send it out. But we try and disclose everything we can when we're actually are on the appointment. So we'll try and lay out, you know, the age of the furnace, the age of the roof, the condition of the floors, the condition of the bathrooms and the kitchens, and you know, the electrical type, the plumbing type. You know, if we spot any foundation issues, we might not catch everything, but I think we do a fairly good job of trying to outline most things. And we also try and take height measurements in the basement so that anyone who's doing a secondary suite conversion, you guys also know if there's room there to add another suite in the basement.
Yeah, our goal is essentially to get as much info to you in that first thing where you feel comfortable, you know, getting as much as you can, not even seeing that thing right out the way. Like, we want to get as much information as you can. So the wholesale overview, pretty much Ryan went over it earlier. We connect with these home owners and landlords, and they're just looking for a different route to go other than the MLS or sell themselves to their friend. They're just looking for an easy way out. So we negotiate a great price that works with both parties. A lot of these people have a lot of equity in their home where just the ease is worth a little bit less, and they just will go with us in that way. So how we do it is we get a signed purchase contract with the seller. It will be with DCI at their price. We would market the property. That's the email. I see a lot of names here that I recognize. I'm sure you guys have seen it. The email that we do up, just to see what's the age of the home, the information, all that stuff. And we send it out to you guys. We market it properly. And this is where the assignment agreement comes in. You're essentially taking our agreement, we're assigning it to you, and we're essentially partners the whole way through. You know, we're working together until the final closing date. We're not you versus us versus the seller. It's us two together working with it, trying to get the deal done.
And I think that's a good point, Cody. So we do try, again, I don't know how many of you on here have worked with either wholesale companies or private buyers. But I think one thing that we do try and do to help our buyers is quarterback the paperwork. So we have a transaction coordinator in-house who works with your lawyer as well as the seller's lawyer to make sure all the proper fulfillments and all the amendments and any of the actual legal paperwork that needs to go between both lawyers is being quarterbacked on our side to make sure that it's going to the appropriate person. So there can be a lot of back and forth, but we really try and make that as easy as possible for you guys, so that you're not, you know, having to send multiple emails and multiple calls to try and get something done for Calvert or for whoever, you know, your lender is on that deal, who might need those amendments and fulfillments. And the next slide.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, next slide. Okay, assignment deal. So after the winning bid is received, I'll start before we do that. So you would go out, you see the property. If you reach out to me, you want to see it. We are limited with the amount of people we can get into the property, of course, as these people are coming to us just for ease of sale. If we're bringing 100 people through their house, it's not that easy for them. Also with COVID going on, we are trying to limit the amount. So once we go through there, everyone has an equal chance to put in a bid. You email me your best number, how you're going to finance a deal, which is likely Calvert. Once we pick that winning bid, you'll receive an email from myself. You'll get the assignment agreement between you and DCI Properties. You'll get the original agreement from DCI Properties and the seller. And then you'll get just a simple deposit instructions, just where to put the draft, how to go through with the next steps, take pictures. Typically, we're trying to do 48 hours after this. It's just to secure the deal. We have a lot of other people who are on top of us trying to get it. And like the quicker you get your deposit in, then the more secure it is, kind of deal. Like mentioned before, it is in our everyone's best interest for both of us to work together this whole time through the deal. If anything is needed, don't hesitate to reach out, because it makes it worse when we wait till close. We're on the same team. Give me a shout. We can make it happen.
And then that's a good point, Cody. And then the other thing is the deposit that you give to us is held by our Alberta lawyer in trust. So it's not going into our, one of our company accounts. It is being held by the lawyer in trust.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. Next slide.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this in terms of, where our strengths are. And I think the difference that, we might bring versus others is I think we have a good sense of what you are looking for in a deal. And before we actually buy a property or put it under contract, we actually have a couple deal analyzers, deal analysis specialists who go through comps, comparable sales, market reports, and really get a sense of, whether this has enough meat there to make work either as a rental or a flip. Some deals we may send out might be more marginal and some might be great. You all are probably going to have different criteria on what you're looking for your individual portfolios. So, what might be a really good deal to someone might not be to others, but we do try and look at this from the lens of an investor and really make sure that we're providing a deal that has, enough meat there. And if you want to go to the next slide, so, this came from Jesse at Calvert, who works with a lot. I think they work with a lot of other companies like this. And, his feedback is that we do send out good deals, and that Calvert really likes it when their investors bring a deal from DCI, because we know you guys leave enough meat on the bone for them to make money. And, I can just speak from, my experience, and I'm sure Cody has chatted with a lot of our buyers too. We talk to them after the project has been completed. And sometimes we're kicking ourselves because it's like, oh, I made, 50K or 80K on this flip, or, I had a full cash out refi on this BRRR. And, that could leave us in a position where like, okay, let's try and squeeze every dollar we can out of the next deal because we left so much there. But, we realize that, you guys are the repeat clients. You guys are the repeat customers that hopefully we want to have coming back for more and more deals. And when you guys make money, it's great. So we are trying to leave enough there for you to make money. And again, I can't speak for all other companies, but I do think that's where we pride ourselves in maintaining a good relationship with our buyers. I mentioned we expanded to Edmonton. Jamel is our rep in Edmonton, who's going to be our boots on the ground. He's likely the person you're going to be meeting at a walkthrough if you do come through any of our properties in Edmonton. And we do work closely with our buyers and investors and Calvert to determine what areas we're targeting with our print and digital marketing. So if you're chatting with Cody and you're like, man, I would just love to find a property in this specific area, let us know and we can see if there's a way we can sort of tweak some of our digital or SEO process to see if we can find something in that area for you. The more information we have, the better targeted we can be with the dollars that we spend. Yeah, that's a little bit there on Edmonton. So far, so good. It's been, January and just December in general were very strong months for us. I don't know if that had to do with, the lockdown restrictions with COVID. And I think just the timing and the, sales cycle in general of seasonality of the winter typically being slower. But we're hoping to see that start to pick up in February and March.
Okay, so this is a great map that we use a lot when we're trying to figure out our marketing. When I'm talking to a lot of people, that's one of the big things is we're trying to learn different areas. I forget where they got this website for this map, but it is actually really handy. You can click on any one of these little colors and you can see the different strategies in that area. And that's mostly the reason if I have had a call with you, that's more why I'm asking. We're just trying to see where people are strategically looking. where more than others, if we have some smaller ones, and we're just trying to strategically place our marketing to help you guys. And that's really what it comes down to. So any information at all with me not being in Edmonton and being in Ontario, it's huge for me. Just to know, to talk with our rep Jamel and kind of get to know the area and how it is. It's more helping us help you in the end kind of deal. Okay, so this is our investor package. Every single property we get, we send out. We don't pick and choose the better ones for us. We always send them out, every single one. You'll see that in your email. I have been getting some people telling me they're going to the junk. So if you haven't seen anything, maybe just double check your junk and spam. Just been noticing it's been going in there. So we always send it out through email, but we are trying to test out like text blasting. I think I've asked a few of you on here and everyone seems to be good with it. Just another, we're going to do both, but it's just another way to see the deal and hopefully get more eyes on it. Some people aren't on the email all day and they're more looking at their phones. So we're just trying to get as much information as you can. And like our goal with these packages are, we're not trying to hide anything, because once we hide something, it just comes back on us in the end. So it doesn't make sense for us to do it. Like we are totally open. We have a lot of photos, 50 to 75 photos. We try and give rent comparables. If it's a cash flowing property, which I'll go through in the next few slides, I'm going on and looking for rentals that are comparing with that, with that house, what rent you can get. So you'll see that. You'll see comparables for houses as just like a flip, as is in the area, just to give you an idea. Of course, always check with your realtor and stuff like that, but we're just trying to give as much information as we possibly can. Again, me being in flips as well, I can kind of give a suggestion on renovations. Again, of course, take it at your own, like how you would do it, but we're just trying to give you as much how we feel what we would do with the property.
And that's a good point, Cody. I think the strength of our team internally is that a lot of our staff are actually real estate investors themselves. So Cody's done a handful of flips, and he actually owns a renovation company as well in Ontario. So not only has he renovated his own properties and his own flips, but he does that for other investors as well. So Cody's got a pretty good handle on renovation costs and what things could or should be needed on these properties. And then when we do send them out, you will typically see about 3 comparables from us. We're trying to give you a good sense of both what the ARV is and what the as is value is. We could be off, and again, the thought is probably going to be, oh, you're just picking like the highest ARV and using that so that I pay more for it. Again, we want this to be an ongoing relationship rather than a one-off. So if we wanted it as a one-off, we just give you the best ARV and say, yeah, buy it based on this one being the highest selling comp in the area. I think we usually try and leave out the outliers and go with where we think is more of a conservative ARV. If you guys feel like you can really push the value, then great. You're probably going to get it as one of the winning bids. But with the comparables we show you, we try and keep it a little bit more conservative. And then the last thing on there was the video walkthrough. So with COVID right now, we have been really pushing our reps to try and get a video walkthrough as well as the photos. Again, whether or not you are comfortable submitting an offer with not having actually been through it is up to you. We certainly will accept it, and we have on a number of occasions. So if the video walkthrough is sufficient for you to offer on it, great. If it's not, let Cody know, and he's happy to try and schedule on a walkthrough. But we are trying to get that more and more, with sellers being a little bit more hesitant on people coming through their home with COVID.
And that being said, Ryan, typically, I know a lot of other people do it where we try, and it's not for the wrong reasons, but we try not to just take the first come, first serve, first number that we get in our email, no conditions. We have a lot of people, we don't want to get the reputation of just like, oh, the big guys are just going to buy them every single time because they're going to call Cody first and I'm never going to get a deal. I'm never going to be able to offer on a deal. If we can't get in and something's with the seller and we can only do videos, everyone will have a chance to submit an offer. everyone will have an equal fair shot at it, where it's just not, you see the email first, call me and it's gone kind of deal. Just to keep that in mind. Some people, they just go right away, and then some people message me a few days later, and we just wanted to be fair. Obviously it's a quick game, but try our best. So this is exactly what you're going to see in your email. I believe there's a little more to it, but we couldn't fit it all on here. So first thing you'll see, front, I try and get just 4 standard photos, you know, so you can kind of see the basics of the house without diving into the email and going through 100 photos. So you'll see the address. You'll just see the street. We don't typically put the house address just until people start reaching out. We've had before, people will just go to the house and knock on the door and want to go in, and we obviously don't want that, right? So you'll see the price, you'll see the closing date. Ryan did mention earlier that closing dates sometimes can be pushed. We try real hard to make everyone happy, but just with our marketing and making the sellers happy, we try our best there. This here, so a lot of people think these are only photos. If you scroll down a little bit, you click that button that says property photos, you'll see all of them in there. There's a whole bunch, and if there is videos, we'll have another little button for the videos there. This little write-up too, we kind of just go through most, I would say 99% of our houses are vacant possession. We rarely have one that we have bad tenants in, and if we do, we again work with strategic buyers and try and get it done. You'll see bedroom, bathroom, just standard info, house, age of house, sorry, square footage. And then this is, we give as much info as we can about the big capital investments, right? Like your furnace. I found out it's a little different in Alberta. People don't typically rent big furnaces and stuff there. In Ontario, we do have a lot of people who rent the furnace. And if that is, it's in our agreement where they have to pay it out. So you'll never take on a furnace or a AC rental. You will take on a rental for a water heater. Unfortunately, we just can't get that one to be paid out. But yeah, other than that, we got our electrical, amperage, or if it's breaker, fuses, the plumbing, and the basement height, like Ryan mentioned before. A lot of strategy is doing that secondary suite. So we try our best to try and get a measurement underneath the duct and underneath the actual ceiling height. Below there, you'll see all the exterior features, zoning of the property, lot size, what the house is, if it's stucco, vinyl, brick, whatever, age of roof, age of windows, and then concrete. If there's a detached garage or anything like that, we'll include that also. And then we just give suggestions, you know, like this one, if I remember correctly, it needed quite a bit of work. The whole house needed to be done. So that's why I say full cosmetic renovation, junk removal. I'll be honest with you, I almost put this in every single deal just to set the expectation of there might be a time where there's nothing in there and they go, oh, we need to leave this stuff. So we just want to set it where I don't get a call on closing and go, Cody, come on, there's a dumpster full of junk in here kind of deal. Landscaping, it's a little tough now with the snow. And then what we suggest with the basement. A lot we're finding in Alberta, we get a lot of bungalows that have big basements, which are just beauty for secondary suites. Maybe we can go on to the next one. Okay, submitting offers. Yeah.
Sorry, Cody, I see some questions coming through. Rob, is it better just to go over these at the end?
Yeah, so I'm going to hit some up in the chat while we're going now, and then at the end we'll open it up to some Q&A. And then before I turn it back to Cody, I just realized that we forgot to tell the people what the prizes are at the end of the presentation here. So maybe you guys can talk about that.
Yeah, you want to take that, Ryan?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we have 2 $500 Home Depot cards that we're going to be doing a random draw for at the end of the presentation. So that's from us. Just to say thank you for joining in and helping us kind of get kickstarted in Edmonton. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And I believe Calvert will be just doing a random draw based on, who's on the presentation.
Cool. So I kind of went over this before. Anyone interested in this property, call me, email me. All you need to do is just, you're interested. I will get back to you. What usually happens is once we send that out, I then have to reach out to the seller and set up a walkthrough time. So if you just email me or call me and just say, Cody, I'm interested, let me know when you're going to do the walkthroughs. And if you're not going to do the walkthroughs, let me know when offer date's going to be. And I'll make sure to get back to everyone. In that email, you can ask me what the property address is, walkthrough time, offer date, like I just said. Then you can kind of do a little bit of information and research yourself. Send it to your realtor, get him to pull some comps, whatever you may want to do, him or her. Sorry. We, like I said before, we do not do first come, first serve. A lot of people, I do get the calls. Come on, Cody, give me a deal. Let's go. We try and make it fair for everyone. Like mentioned, you can put an offer in. We just don't want to get that reputation, and we want everyone to be fair. Before I started with DCI, I was also an investor. And if they went by that motto, I never would have got a deal because I was just a young gunner. So I'm glad they did. And so that's just how we do. We try to be fair. We provide the offer date and the time to allow everyone to get it in on time. So with the walkthrough, let's just use the example of tomorrow. A walkthrough is from 2 till 4. We typically have 2 hours in the house. If the last walkthrough date is at 4 p.m., I will set the offer time for 7 p.m. that same night. So the last guy still has some time to run some numbers. We're making it quick and not dragging it out, just to let people know for the future. That's typically how we do it. That slide's good.
The only thing I wanted to just add is before we jump into the numbers, if there's anyone on the call who's an agent and may have a buyer who's interested in the property, feel free to tack on any additional commission that you want to add for your buyer to the assignment contract. And then that'll just get paid out at closing from the lawyer's office as per your sales agreement with the buyer. So we're not going to take anything out of the price that we have listed there. So if you want to market that to your own buyer pool, then you'll just need to add whatever commission you want on top. And we leave that open to you, whether that's a flat fee or a percentage.
For sure. And we're totally open with taking our marketing and showing your buyers. We're not against that at all. We have some people who they will take our email and Photoshop their name on it and send it out. It ends up coming back to me anyway, so it doesn't look too good on them. But yeah, we're fully cool with you just marketing it as, add your fee on top, and we'll get you guys in and take a look. If you ever see something where we're saying cash flow anywhere from 180 to 500 or whatever, this is what we're doing. We're putting all the numbers into this spreadsheet. And we're typically just assuming a 5% maintenance, a 5% vacancy. Everyone is going to do their own numbers, right? We're just kind of given what we see at first glance. And that's where I put the rent there. So with those other comps, you can go in, they're physical buttons. You can click on those comps. You can see the rental ad just to kind of see the different photos and compare them. So like mentioned before, we're just trying to give as much info. Of course, everyone's going to do numbers themselves, but we're just trying to give you as much as we can. I don't know if you have anything on that one, Ryan, but.
No, numbers are hard. We've debated in the past, do we add them, do we not? Everyone's going to run their own set. Everyone's going to have their own tracker. We just figured, if we saw it as a good cash flowing property, we just wanted to let you know that this is how we ran our numbers. Again, you guys will be able to run your own and figure out if it makes sense. But something new that we started adding was the rent comparables, because we only ever used to include the ARB. And I know that rent is a big question if it is something that you're going to use as a rental. We try and do some research for you and see what we can find in the area. And then there's actually a link that gets included to whatever that rental ad is. So you can check it out yourself and see on that same email. Yeah, so less than 3 years, we've become the #1 source for off-market deals to investors in Southwest Ontario. Like I said, our volume is picking up, and if any of you do invest in Ontario, and you have some contacts out here, if you float our name by most people, I think they would probably know who we are. We do take a lot of pride in having our buyers make money on their deals and build their portfolio. And so far, so good in Southwest Ontario. If you go to the next slide, we are hoping to repeat that in Edmonton. Yeah, that's again part of this presentation is just being able to actually connect with all of you, get a better sense of what you're looking for, answer any questions you have about our process, and hopefully try and help you build your portfolio. Because like Rob mentioned at the start, half the battle in building a solid real estate portfolio is just buying it right. And if you guys want to do your own marketing and source your own leads and go through your own your own process for finding them, by all means, have at her. But this is what we do all day, every day. I think we got a pretty good process for how we train our reps, for how we train our lead intake managers who handle the calls that come in. And I think our transaction coordinator on just dealing with the paperwork and making sure that everything's aligned there. So I think we got a pretty good, smooth process that makes this pretty easy for most investors to make sure that they're buying the property right from the get-go. And like I mentioned on that slide that had Jesse's comment, I think Calvert, the reason that they enjoy working with us is because they don't feel concerned when one of their investors brings them a deal for a mortgage when they see that DCI is the name attached on the assignment agreement. We really do try and make sure that our buyers are making money on the deal. So hopefully you can rest assured in knowing that, buying from us, you should be getting, some lift right from the get-go.
So yeah, I'm assuming we'll put a link out here. I believe the link's supposed to be on here just to our buyers list. Also, if anyone ever sends you one of our emails, both of our buyers list for Alberta and Ontario are at the very bottom of our every email, so you can join there. Also, just off here, you'll see my my contact info on one of the next slides. Reach out to me. I can get you on the list. No big deal.
Yeah, do you want to just click over? Yep, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. So reach me. That's my personal cell. Call me. I'll save your number. You can email on that one. No problem. We'll get you on the list.
Yeah, so I think that's about it for us. And yeah, there were some questions that came through, which we're happy to answer at the end. I think there was a lot of good questions asked. And yeah, we'll turn it back over to Rob and Calvert to kind of take you through their process and what they do. And again, I just want to stress that if you haven't used Calvert before, definitely give them a shout and give them a shot. What I have enjoyed in working with them and seeing our buyers work with them is they really do understand how to loan from the point of view of an investor and not your traditional resi mortgage broker or traditional A lender that isn't going to understand what an assignment agreement is or, how to calculate, the ARV of a property similar to what you would do, or how to calculate your rental costs. Like these guys are dialed in, they know their stuff. And if you haven't used them, at least give them a shot and give them a call.
Awesome. Ryan, Cody, thanks a lot for that. That's a awesome presentation and a lot of really good information for everybody on the call. Before I get going, one more time, what are we giving away at the end of it?
We got two $500 Home Depot gift cards.
Boom. All right. Just wanted to make sure that
Cody, what will that stretch you at Home Depot?
Well, you can get a 2x4 probably.
1 2x4.
Yeah, 1 2x4. No,
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Yeah, supply chains for lumber have been disrupted. Anyways, guys, thanks a lot for that. I'll take it over from here. Perfect. My name is Rob Maver. I'm an underwriter with Calvert Home Mortgage, and I've been with the company for about 2.5 years. Shortly, I'm going to introduce you to my colleague, Sherwin Dzwanka, who's been with the company for roughly 6 years, I want to say. But a little bit about us. We've been in business since 1975. We started off as a brokerage, and then we became a MIC, a mortgage investment corporation in 1982. And Sherwin has been with the company for 8 years. Sorry, Sherwin. So we've been lending money since 1982. And as you can see by those two little happy homes, one in Alberta, the other in Ontario, these are the provinces that we like to lend in. Our focus as a lender is short-term lending with strong exit strategies. So we love to do flip deals where somebody buys a property, fixes it up, and resells it for a profit. BRRR deals where they get the property under contract, renovate it, rent it, refinance it. That's the kind of business that we have the strongest appetite for. And this kind of relays into our mission, is that we're looking to be trusted advisors offering an effortless experience for the personal and financial success of others. We do not write loans for the sake of writing loans. We want to make sure that everybody involved in our mortgage is getting some kind of value. So are we helping you be profitable on a flip? Do we believe that you're going to make money? Are you creating a cash flowing rental? This is our paradigm for how we approve loans. Are we adding value to you and your business plan? What makes a flip successful? So some of the key points here: buying right. If I buy a property for 400 and put 20 grand into it, and Cody buys it for 350 and puts 20 grand into it, Cody's going to be ahead of me. And that's why it's so important that flippers and people who are looking to create that equity in a BRRRR property as well, that they're buying the right properties from the right people. So again, thanks to DCI, Cody and Ryan for being here today. Another big important factor to consider is that you're renovating for your market. So when I say that, it's important to know that the neighborhood that you're going to be playing in. Are you renovating to the neighborhood standard, or are you renovating above it? The best practice here is to go on the MLS if you have access, or work with your realtor and look at recent sales. How are they renovated? What types of renovations are selling quickly and getting the highest sale price? And you don't want to go above that, and you don't want to go too much below that. You want to create a product, or you want to build a product that the market has a demand for in that neighborhood. So it's really important that you're mindful of what's moving in that area and how you can produce a product that's going to conform with the neighborhood standard there. Our next point is sticking to a budget. So when you have a budget, stick to it. Sometimes when we're working with new flippers, they get very emotionally attached to the property. And it's really important to know that numbers are king and your business plan rules. Do not get emotionally attached. Stick to your budget, stick to your plan. And a big portion of that is executing your renovation plan quickly. One of the things that I like to tell people is that when you get a property under contract, do not wait until you get the keys to start acquiring your materials, to start working with your contractors, scheduling things. The time that you have from when you have the accepted offer or assignment agreement until you get the keys is free time. You're not paying interest on that time to your lender. You want to make sure that you're doing everything that you can. So as soon as you get the keys, you have a plan. This is when I have this trade in. This is when I have this trade in. This material is coming this day. So you're hitting the ground running. You're operating a well-oiled machine, and you're able to get in and out as quickly as possible. The next key piece is knowing what your rental costs are. So a lot of people, we want to encourage people to, when you're sourcing your materials, make sure that you're working with very current numbers, if you will. At the start of the pandemic, lumber was not as expensive as it was today. And then we would have people updating their renovation costs on extended closes, and the lumber increases ate into the margins, reducing profitability. So it's really important that you're getting the most accurate, the most recent numbers that you can. And I always encourage people to be aggressive when they're sourcing materials. Be very vigilant, because at the end of the day, you're protecting your bottom line. And that's the most important thing when we're doing these types of projects. And this all relays into knowing your numbers. What are you paying your lender? What are your interest costs? What are your closing costs? you know, in Alberta, we don't have it, but in Ontario, there's a transfer tax. If there's anybody in the call from Ontario, we have tools to help you work with you on these things. And another thing I would say with your numbers too is also your rental schedule. So if you can't have 2 trades on the same floor at once, make sure that you're scheduling opposite floors at the same time. Whatever you can to keep things moving as quickly as possible. Your business plan is your ticket to your profitability. Make sure that you own that and have a great plan to make sure that you're going to succeed. Neighborhood. So we touched a little bit on this. Do your research. What does this mean? What is a community ceiling for sales? So if you think that the ARV, the after repaired value of a property, could be 600, but we don't have any comparable sales above 500, maybe 500 is our floor. Some people will beat this number from time to time, but it's important that when we're working on our ARVs, our after repaired values, we're looking at most recent comparable sales. So we're predicting tomorrow's sale price with yesterday's sales information / data. We don't want to gamble on a market increase or a time increase. We want to see that that neighborhood has rewarded the type of product that we're looking to build. So be cognizant of what we're building there. And we kind of touched into that too with buying and renovating to the neighborhood standard. You know, you're not going to put quartz in a linoleum neighborhood, or, you know, on lower entry level rental properties, so to speak, right? So just be very mindful that you're building a specific product for a specific purpose. Maybe that $1.99 tile will work, not the $10 tile. So be very cognizant of those things. Inventory is a very important thing to keep your eye on. And what inventory is it's a calculation of essentially the supply of the neighborhood, how quickly things are moving. We're going to touch on that formula a little bit later in the presentation. 3 to 4 months is considered a balanced market, depending on where you are. Anything less than that is considered a seller's market, because there's less inventory, buyers can't be as selective, the leverage goes towards the seller. And then anything above 3 to 4 months is considered a buyer's market, because buyers can be more picky, there's more choice on the market. And flippers, you really want to be selling, of course, in markets where the seller holds the leverage. And in order to get a sense for what that data is looking like, you need to have a sense for what are the recent sales, what are the active listings looking like, are there a lot of expired listings? Those will give you some sense as to how that neighborhood and its market are performing. This is a really key step that I think everybody should do. Google the property address, not just to get the listing, but I remember some of my first few files, I saw in consecutive days a murder house and then a grow op house. These are homes that the market is going to stigmatize, and you're not going to be able to command a full, you know, the home is going to be discounted in the market, if you will. So you don't want to lend on homes that have any known history to that effect. So make sure that you're doing your due diligence by Googling the property, and don't just go through one page, go 4, 6, 8, 10 pages back, just to make sure that this property has not been on a headline for a wrong reason. And also, if you're working with a realtor, make sure that you're working with one that understands the marketability of the project or of the property, and that you're asking them good questions, and that they're giving you confidence in the answers that they're providing, because they're a very key piece to your team. So valuation techniques. We talked about making money on the buy. We talked about sticking to the numbers. You want to be basing your value on the most recent data available. And again, depending on what market you're on, I'd want to be within 90 days at the latest. In the spring, comparables older than 4 weeks in some areas in the GTA, I would call stale. So you want to be working with the most recent available data possible. A property that sold last January, that information is of no good. One that sold just this January is going to give you some good intel as to what people are doing and how properties are moving. Another thing that a good realtor is going to be able to help you on is your listing strategy. Again, this is something that's going to vary per neighborhood. You'll see the list to sales price ratio. In Alberta, you know, typically if you get 98% of your listing price, that's good. Some cities in Ontario, such as Oshawa, if you're not selling for 140% of your list price, then maybe you didn't list it aggressively enough, low enough to create a bidding war. And this is a conversation to have with your realtor on the listing strategy and what their marketing plan would be. And again, when you're pulling your recent sales and your comparable properties, make sure that you're looking at ones that have been renovated, because the market treats those ones differently than properties that aren't going to be renovated or that haven't been renovated. When you're looking at comparable properties too, it's really important that we're going like for like. So when I say like for like, I'm not going to compare a row townhouse to a bungalow. You know, we want to make sure that we're comparing properties that are similar, because you want to make sure when you're valuing the property, essentially, and when we value the property, that we're not making big adjustments, because adjustments, they're backed by science and data, if you will, but they're still subjective because you're at the discretion of the person making the adjustments. So if I have one lot that's half the size of the other, that's a big adjustment. So some things to take away. Are we comparing the same type of house to a same type of house? So are we comparing bungalows to bungalows? Is the lot size similar? Is the square footage similar? Age of construction, was it built at roughly the same time? Are the upgrades the same? So was it a recently renovated house? Does one back onto a park, or is one at the end of a cul-de-sac where the other backs onto a meat packing plant? Are there environmental or negative externalities that could impact the value of the property? When you're looking at other comparable sales, make sure that they're like for like, and the more ways that they're similar and the less adjustments that you'd have to make, the better. So again, same type of house, similar size lot, similar bed bath count, similar square footage, similar conditions, similar influences, similar level of upgrades are all things to consider. And also yard development too, because that's something else that's another one that's important as well. So about making money on the buy, we're going to talk more about our flip product, but some of the benefits to working with us is that as a lender, we are equipped to operate at the speed of business, and Sherwin's going to tell you exactly how we have our system set up for that. But when you get financing with us, you're able to, and again, this is pending the ability to work with your underwriter here to satisfy your conditions, but we can give you the ability to really be competitive in that market. I know that Ryan and Cody, when we say that our buyer, or when a buyer says that they're working with Calvert and they're funding the deal, that there's a level of confidence on their side because they know that the deal is, that they're with a lender that understands what's happening. But if you're not working with DCI, you know, they talk about solving somebody else's pain. So if there's a distressed seller, how can you add value to that seller? Usually it's by working with them on some types of conditions, being flexible on the closing date, being able to close quickly. Maybe it's some junk left behind. There's a lot of different ways. Finding the right realtor is very important. And then also be searching for good deals. It's an extremely competitive market right now. Inventories are at all times low. The good deals go quickly. So if this is something that you're doing as a business plan, finding properties is one of the most difficult things, and you always have to be on the ball looking for them, or on DCI's and Bow River's buyers list. Some other tips, you know, we talked a bit on timeline. You want to be cognizant of how long it's going to, when you're working through your numbers, how long is it going to take you to execute the renovation plan, and how long is it going to take you to sell? Your inventory calculation in the neighborhood will give you an idea as to how long it'll take to sell. You don't want to be doing big renovations. You want to be focusing on the smaller ones. So, you know, when you start knocking down walls, that can, sometimes there can be surprises. Whereas, you know, the lipstick renovations where it's very surface type renovation, those can be preferred. If you're going to be knocking down walls, some people will say that they prefer to do bungalows just because there's less ceilings and things like that to contend with. That's a whole other topic on its own. And then, of course, try and buy at a discount. Some of the things to be mindful of, you know, refinishing hardwood floors, resurfacing tubs. Sometimes that can spruce up a place and bring it back to life. Tiles in kitchens and bathrooms sell. Roof, that can be a big ticket item. So you want to understand what the health of that key building component is. Being mindful of the community standard and going with the trends, the things that are moving quickly. New appliances really seem to offer a lot of value too. And these are some tips to consider when you're putting together your business plan for a specific project.
Rob.
Yeah.
I was just gonna add from my own personal experience, having flipped a bunch of properties, that when I got started, I was really trying to do some of the things that you're suggesting not to do on doing a lot of those high-end renos. And what I realized after, you know, not making money on some is that your biggest pool of buyers is always going to be at the cheapest price point. And so the less that you can add that's going to force people up in that next bracket of purchase price, the more leverage you're going to get from having a bigger pool of buyers bidding on that lower price property. Right. So if you do a bunch of renos to take it from 500 to 600, there's only going to be, let's say, 10 people that can qualify at 600. But if you do less and keep the price at, say, 520 on the list because you put less into it, or 550, you might have 30 people at 550, and those 30 people are likely going to push that price up a little bit more than the 10 would at 600.
Yeah, that's a key. That's a great tip, Ryan. You want to be, yeah, and flippers tend to work in that entry to mid-level price point too, because you have people entering it and you have people downsizing into that area too, or into that price point rather. So you want to be focusing on products that are going to, or properties that are going to be in high demand and lower inventory neighborhoods if you can get in there. Another thing too is, you know, BRRR, flipping for your rental portfolio, you don't always have to flip to sell. So if you're looking to build a rental property, going private at the front, renovating it, and then refinancing back your renovation costs is a great way to build a rental portfolio. A key portion of this is understanding what that exit mortgage is going to look like. So if you're working with a mortgage broker, one of the things that Calvert underwriters like to do is get on the phone with that mortgage broker and talk through the exit. So as soon as the house will qualify for an A or a B lender, that we're quarterbacking the exit with them to make sure that you're graduating back into that cheaper money as soon as possible. Also, what is that equity takeout going to be when you refinance out our mortgage? How much cash do we think that you could put back in your pocket at the end of the deal? So if you're executing the BRRRR strategy, make sure that you're working with a really good mortgage broker who can help support the exit strategies on that. And that's something that we always look to work on the mortgage broker with as well. And again, buy at a discount. So Edmonton communities, you want to, again, focus on areas where there is going to be turnover. Inventory, 3-month supply or less is considered low inventory. And how you calculate inventory is you take active listings and then you take how many properties have sold over how many months and you divide those. When you're looking in urban areas, you want to start at 90 days, 3 months. If you don't get a lot of information, a lot of sales, open it up 4 or 5 months, but you want to keep it within 3 months for urban properties. And then if you're looking at rural, and those, again, these aren't good flip opportunities, but you can go back as far as 6. Some flippers that I know, they'll focus on specific communities because they know what's moving, and they just have a whole garage filled with materials because and they're pumping out a product. Others will focus in specific cities. Again, this is entirely up to you and how you want to develop your business plan, but just something to consider, some food for thought. Perfect. And now I'm going to pass it over to Sherwin, 8-year veteran of Calvert. Sorry about that, buddy.
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, so I'm going to focus more on Calvert itself and our flip product. A little bit about Calvert. We currently have a book of about 225 million. Somewhere in the range of 50 to 60% of those are flips. So we do a lot of flips. We've been doing flips for about 30 years now. So we have a lot of experience. Ontario, I know we're focusing on Alberta here, but Ontario, we're just recently in there, and we're learning as we're going, and doing a lot of deals in Ontario as well. So we can afford to go to the next slide, please. So as Rob alluded to, I'm going to go into a few things and how Calvert is a really good fit for some of these really important things. One of the things is, good deals sell fast. So, obviously sometimes there's a quick close, sometimes the close is a little bit down the road, but analyzing a deal and getting in on the deal quickly is really important. We can help with that in a lot of ways. One of those ways is, if you're pre-approved with us, we can take a look at that after repaired value, help you come up to that number and say, hey, go and offer, up to this maximum purchase price. So basically ahead of even putting in an offer, we can take a look at the property for you. One of the other things is, other lenders will only look at the current value of the property. We will look at the after repaired value of the property. We will help, we'll give you our opinion of that. So it gives you another set of eyes on it. My colleagues that do the valuations are very good at their job. So we feel that when we give you a number, we feel that we're really close to that. It also allows you to, borrow with less down payment. So again, I'm going to go into that a little bit further, but it's really important in some scenarios, depending on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to build fast, you can put a smaller down payment, focus on the renovations and get onto that next project. The other thing too is some traditional financial institutions have big payout penalties. So we're seeing smart flipper and BRRRR borrowers, come directly to us, lend from us for a short period of time, and then utilize that A lender on the takeout, so that there's no payout penalty. They're not burning bridges with other lenders, and again, we'll go into that a little bit further, but that's the gist of that as well. So next slide, please. So our underwriting philosophy at Calvert for flip, and this also applies for BRRRR products, is the deal profitable? That's our number one filter. We want to make sure that you're going to make money. Just like DCI, we want to build a relationship. We want to see this deal, the next deal, and so on and so on. So it's really important to us that when we analyze a deal, that you're going to make money, and and then we're going to look at that next one with you. So again, will the borrower make money? On our side, we're going to do our due diligence, and we're going to look at valuing the property. So from you, we need to understand, okay, here's the property we're looking at. Here's the rental budget, or here's the rental plan budget timeline. The rental plan, we need you to be as descriptive as possible, give us as many details so we can get a really good picture of that end product. And then we can look at the market, we'll compare it to other renovated properties that are sold in the last 90 days or less, and give you that after repaired value. Again, it's another set of eyes. It's a set of eyes from my colleagues that do this all day long, and they're really good at this. So you'll get a really good indication of what the end value of your property is going to be. We will do these type of deals with the minimum of $10,000 down payment on the purchase price. So basically, as long as the after repaired value, as long as the total mortgage is less than 80% of the after repaired value, we can move forward with that minimum $10,000 down. There are some caveats that I believe I'll go into a little bit later with the slides that are coming up. But one of the caveats is if the property is a little bit higher value, so say we're looking at a $600,000-$700,000 property, we may require you to put down a little bit more to make sure that our interest is protected up front, just because the risk becomes really high on those higher end properties. We again will be looking for your renovation costs before we analyze anything. Once we move forward, we will also be looking to ensure that you have the funds to cover the down payment, to cover your renovation costs, as well as your carrying costs, which will include our monthly interest payments. Okay, and we say expertise is provided along the way. What we mean by that is, again, we have a lot of experience with this. Our colleagues that do the valuations are really good at their job. We're going to make sure that you're getting into a project that's going to be profitable to you. So I'm going to show you our flip analyzer in a little bit here, and you'll see kind of how we analyze each deal as we go through it. So next slide, please. So again, this is kind of how we look at stuff. We value your property as though it's already renovated. We can do deals with as little as $10,000 down. And I'll speak to this a little bit in a few minutes, but a bigger down payment will get you a better overall rate. And then we require that you have capital for the renovations and for the full project for that matter. So again, same day, no fee evaluation. So a benefit over other lenders is we're going to do the internal valuation. We're not going to require you to go and get a third-party appraisal. There's one little caveat to that. If the end value is over 1.25 million, we will require a third-party appraisal. As Ryan and Rob alluded to earlier, going after those high value properties aren't always the best scenario. You limit your market on the sale. You also, the fluctuations in the market are bigger in those higher ends versus the lower ends. So we like to deal in the average market, maybe a little bit above, maybe a little bit below. That's where your biggest marketability is going to be. That's going to be where the most people are looking at that house to purchase it. So that's the sweet spot that we like to stay in. With that small $10,000 down payment, our interest rate is 15.5. Again, our risk is really high because we're going in with a $10,000 down payment on the purchase price. Say it's 300,000, we're going in with 290. We do have a fee. Our fee is 1.5 to 3% of the net mortgage. So, and we'll cap that fee on top, so it's not coming out of your pocket, right? So once you sell the property, you're going to pay us out the total mortgage. Interest rates can get a lot better if you put more down because you basically mitigate our risk as a lender. So say, the rate can go down as low as 7.99 if you can put up to 25% down on the purchase price. Okay. And then there's a whole schedule of rates in between, and we can share that with you, excuse me, if you're interested. Next slide, please. So again, a little bit of reiteration here, but lowest down payment of 10,000 equals a 15.5 interest rate. I spoke to this. Interest rate can be reduced if there's a larger down payment. Benefit of a small down payment. So just recently I've experienced this, and a lot of people want to, put in a little bit more and get that lower rate. And that makes sense if you're one of those people that are, okay, I'm doing this one and then I'm not going to do another one for a while. Or you just have a lot of money. I guess there's some people out there that do have a lot of money, but then you come across other people that want to do multiple projects and want to be able to do maybe multiple projects at the same time, or start looking for their next one before they sell this one. So if you put a big down payment into a project and you tie all of your money up in it, then it's really hard to do that next one and the next one and next one in a timely fashion. because basically you got to wait for this first one to sell before you have the funds to get on to the next one. So what our flippers will do with us is they'll say, okay, well, we love the $10,000 down because, oh, we're going to do 2 of them at once. But also once we have these done and they're listed, we're going to already start looking, or hopefully have another one under contract or close to it. So that allows them to do those multiple projects, not have a break in their plan, and keep it churning and do the best business. Basically, we will support the best profitability of clients. What we're saying by that is we want to make sure that, you know, if you do want to put a little bit more down because it makes sense in your scenario, whatever scenario it works in your plan, we want to support it. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go into a example. This is an Edmonton property, one that we probably did about 1.5 to 2 years ago. These are the breakdown of the costs. So, and a before and after picture. It was a really nice renovation, pretty quickly done. As you can see, they took out that wall, actually the half wall. You can't see the door in the first picture, but it's just behind that door. So it opened it up really nicely, really good renovation. So bought it for $313,000, put a $10,000 down payment on it. Renovation budget was $53,000, and purchase date to sale date was 109 days, and the sale price was $448,000. So this guy had a net profit of $40,500. And sorry, I'm just laughing at the comment there. Reminds me of my grandmother's old kitchen. Yeah, there's a lot of these types of scenarios that we have. But so looking at the mortgage details, we lent with $10,000 down, so a $303,000 net mortgage. The interest rate was 15.5%. The term is always 6 months, and it's fully open and interest only. So fully open, no payout penalty. So the quicker you get done, you can pay us out in full without having that penalty that I mentioned earlier that other lenders might have. The fee in this scenario was 2%. Again, our fees range from anywhere from 1.5 to 3. So 2%, that's $6,060 would have been added on to $303. So the total mortgage would have been $309 and $60. So as you can see, I just wanted to point out, we're lending $309,060 on a $313,000 purchase price. So again, our risk is really high, but when we look at these projects, we ensure that we are comfortable that the borrower that we're working with, our clients, can get from start to finish. We want to make sure that you have that ability, and we build that trust. And moving on to future deals, the trust is there. We don't have to relook at everything. We just look at projects moving forward. We also get a really good sense of your renovation, like how you do your renovations, what your properties look like at the end. So it's a lot easier to do after repaired values when we've already done 1 or 2 projects with you. So next slide, please. This is our flip analyzer tool. This one actually illustrates the example. So flip analyzer tool, it looks a little convoluted, but it really isn't. The orange parts are the parts that you would fill in. Some of them are already pre-filled. In this case, as you can see, there's the purchase costs on the far left, the selling costs in the middle, operating costs over there in section D, and then the renovation budget timeline, and then financing costs. So just one thing I wanted to point out here, you can see that this guy, I believe his wife was a real estate agent in this scenario. So you can see the real estate agent discount, so of half of the real estate agent fee. So in other words, they added that into their profitability because it's not something that they had to realize. So after repaired value, as you can see, all the numbers are punched in there. Let's move on to the next. So this is the top half of our Excel spreadsheet. And then now this slide is the bottom half. This slide points out, it gives us a little bit of an analyze or a summary of costs for the project. And then over an H, it'll show you the profitability. This is where, when I'm looking at a flip deal, analyzing it from a borrower, I'm actually filling out this flip analyzer tool. and I'm going to determine the profitability. Okay, so in H there, you see the profitability is 40,000, excuse me, just under $600. The total cash needed, the next line, is what we would look for from you to have to do these projects. So remember I said down payment, rental costs, and then carrying costs. So in this scenario, that took that period of time, so that number right there, that 87,000, that actually calculates in all those costs, and that's what I would be looking for you to have to be able to do this project. That total cash needed can come from cash, so savings. It can come from, say, a line of credit. Oftentimes people will use a HELOC. Even some people will use a credit card, like let's say a Home Depot. We're talking about gift cards earlier. Some people will use a Home Depot credit card because they'll rack it up. They have it at 0% interest. They'll pay it off at the end of their project. So we're open to see different avenues of having that money, but just as long as it makes sense. Another opportunity to get that money is to possibly use equity in another property. So say you have another property that has a low loan to value mortgage on it, there's equity in it. We can look at maybe blanketing that property and even lending you the rental costs or something like that. If you offer up another property and we blanket it, we can even do a better rate because it adds to the overall, decreases our risk in the deal. So it just depends. If you have that scenario, we can take a look at it and let you know where we stand. Next slide, please. Guess that's it. As you can see, this is 4 presenters. Thanks for everybody for being staying to the end here, and we'll take some questions now. Sorry, Rob, have we answered the questions to date, or are you just going back into the notes?
I'll go through the notes. Sorry,
I
go
can
ahead.
read a couple of the questions here, and if someone wants to answer them.
Okay.
One of the questions was, how much of a concern is asbestos with older bungalows? Thinking Edmonton market specifically, do you require or recommend testing for it?
I can handle that, Sherwin, and then you can add on to my answer if you want. Asbestos really depends on where it is and if it's been disturbed or not. So if it hasn't been disturbed, it's not as big of an issue. But if it's underneath the floor, if it's behind a wall that you're banging down, then it becomes, what's the word I'm looking for? Not effervescent.
Problematic.
then it's airborne. Yeah. But if it's around a pipe, then it's lesser of a concern. With asbestos and UFI, urea formaldehyde foam insulation, it's always best to consult a professional. I know, say if you're working in an older bungalow and you're opening up a wall, say kitchen to the living room, I've talked with some flippers, and what they'll do is they have somebody come in and they test it, and then what they do to dispose of it is they basically soak the wall, so when you knock it down, less of it becomes airborne. And then they give you a certificate when they remediate it, saying, hey, we confirm and certify that there's that asbestos is no longer present in this area. So if you're disturbing it, I guess in closing, my answer would be one, that this advice is given with a pound of caution, and that I'm not a trained professional in dealing with asbestos. And if you're going to be knocking down any walls or opening up anything where asbestos or UFI is present, that you seek out that, and that you build that cost into your renovation plan too. But it's not an uncommon issue. Any home built before the 70s is very likely going to have it present.
You can buy little testing kits on Amazon too, if you want to just test a couple areas and send them in. That's an easy and inexpensive way to do it. Another question from Kevin Russell is, who's evaluating the properties for your investor package? Do you have experienced electricians or plumbers who are evaluating your properties for you? I'm assuming that's for Cody and Ryan there.
Yeah, so there's a couple, I guess, different eyes kind of going into that. So prior to actually going out to the property, our backhouse team of deal analysts will analyze, similar to what Rob was talking about, market comparables in the area over the last 3 months. We typically don't go back any further than that, just because we don't want to keep the data as relevant as possible. And the sooner they've sold, the better. So once we have a rough idea of what some of those comps and ARVs are, then when we actually get to the property, it's usually our property buying specialist. They have some tools with them. They do have something that tests the electrical outlet to see if it is, if there is any aluminum knob and tube, or hopefully it's copper. And other than that, we're mainly taking photos and the video. And then when we get the property back and Cody's running through it to take a look at what we want to include when we send it out, he's looking through to notice for any of those. So when we go on that initial walkthrough ourselves, we're not bringing plumbers or electricians with us. We're just kind of eyeballing it based on what we can see. So, I'm assuming that question was kind of leading towards, how will I know if there are plumbing or electrical issues that you can't see? And I think to Rob's point, sometimes that's just what you need to bake into the cost of your renovation. You're not always going to know. And whether it's a property you're buying from us or whether you're buying it off MLS, there still could be things you don't know if you start to open up walls. So we try and do as good of a job we can based on the age of the home, where it's located, when it was built, what we see other homes that are listed or unlisted that we've bought in that area. Most builders are going to use similar materials and they're going to be fairly similar. So, if it's an area that has a lot of aluminum, it's likely going to be that house has aluminum, whether we can see it or not. But yeah, so we don't have those people coming with us, but we do try and get an accurate idea of both the property value and as much as we can see based on the photos and the video and anything that the seller is willing to tell us. And I think, that's a good point too, with us having a direct line with the seller. Sometimes when you're dealing with an agent on a regular listed property, there's almost 4 layers of people that you have to go through to find information on the house, right? You got to talk to your agent, that agent has to talk to the listing agent agent talks to the seller, and then the information gets relayed back. With us QBing the deal with the seller, we can ask them anything that you guys need more info on, and they're usually pretty forthcoming with that.
And that being said, you're more than welcome to bring a contractor, an electrician, a plumber with you on the walkthrough. If you have some concerns about the age of the house and you want to still see it, just tell me you're going to bring along your guy, and then we can get him in there too, and he can take a look as well.
Another question was, could you have the address mentioned on the listing to analyze a city assessment, maybe the area, etc.? I'm assuming that's talking about DCI's emails that they send out.
Yeah, Cody, do you want to take that?
Yeah, and honestly, the reason why we don't put them on there is just sometimes it just gets blasted around and it gets forwarded to people that aren't on our list and to people that we don't really know. We've had times where people just go directly to the house and then the seller's calling us going, Cody, why is there someone at my front door wanting to see my house? So we give the street, if we have a maps link as well, and we give the closest intersection to that house that we're doing. But that being said, shoot me a quick email or a call, and I'm more than happy to give you the address. It's just more of the security on the email being passed around, just to be safe. But we're open to giving it. Just reach out.
Perfect. So I think the only other questions were just about the recording, and we are going to be sending that out afterwards to everybody who is registered for this webinar. So no worries about that. And then I think maybe we can just announce a couple names if no one else has any questions.
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna give as a tip that I've realized on doing, I know Rob, you talked a little bit about BRRRs, and I've realized this, I think on the last 8 that I've refied, I've actually had, once I'm done the reno, I know it's not going to be listed, but I do still have it staged and professional photos taken. And I'm finding I'm getting an extra 20 to 30 grand back from the bank that I otherwise would have not gotten by just having it empty. So it's tax-free money that you're getting back from the bank on the refi. The photos also help push up your rental price by an extra 50 to 100 bucks a month. And I'm noticing the refi is coming back a lot higher than they used to. So I don't know if that
That's cool.
helps.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing
yeah,
that.
yeah, no problem. Average cost is like 1,500 to 2,500, depending on who you find. But you don't, the thing is, you're not staging it to list. So if you find somebody who's willing to go in and out in a couple of days, you might even be able to get in and out for 500 bucks. And again, it adds so much value to what you get back on the refi and your rental. Just think about it. Like, I don't know how most people take photos for their rentals, but if it's completely empty, it's hard for a tenant to envision what could go in there. But if you stage it nicely, I've been finding you can usually get an extra 50 to 100 bucks a month in rent.
Kevin wants to know if that can be virtual staging or actual staging.
I've only ever done it actual and then taken the photos with the stuff actually in there. And then it usually actually saves the appraiser a trip out, especially during COVID right now. So yeah. Cool.
Perfect.
I'll just, there was a question about if we lend in BC, and we're not currently lending in BC right now. Hopefully soon, but not yet.
Awesome. So Cody and Ryan, are you good if I announce two names?
Yeah, 100%. Let's do it.
Awesome. So Brad London and Michael Huzinga, I think you say is the last name. Sorry if that's wrong, but those are the two names that we drew. So congratulations. And what email should they contact to claim that prize?
They can contact Cody and we'll figure it out.
Perfect.
If they want to just send maybe a follow-up email with their address, we'll get them mailed out.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you everyone for your time.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thanks for having us on, guys. And again, I think you saw Cody's contact info. So if you're not on our buyers list, make sure to get on there. Yeah, thanks for popping that in there, Cody. So yeah, if you're not on there, get on there, and hopefully we should have a couple Edmonton deals coming out in the next week or so.